Hello everyone. Going to try and record the video. I actually am gonna do a video where I can pause it and stuff and talk about a few things just to see if it's a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. Not too sure. So this one here, I'm on Brewmaster Monk. This guy's actually got pretty not too great gear, but I kind of wanted to show for anyone who's trying to get into tanking that you don't really need to have like a really high gear in order to tank some of these celestials. I think the difficulty of them is actually fairly low. And I think if you've ever wanted to try tanking, it's a really not too bad time to get into it, just because of how the dungeons go, the buff that you get from the Zhao, and all of that is fairly good. I think I probably got like three, four, even maybe five blues still at this time, 463 blues, and I'm still able to take this one pretty easy. I do some pretty decent pulls a few times. I do, as you can see, run with a healer and DPS that are friends, so I trust the healer. I tend to do more when I know my healer than if I did not. So here I grab these first two. I do take a few hits, but it's because they get me in the back, and I just run in and grab this, almost anticipating that. But again, I know the healer's extremely good, so I don't have to worry about dying or anything like that. Kill these rather quickly. There's not a lot of damage once you get them settled. Like I said, the back hits will be really the only thing that actually will drop you. So it's good to pop a cooldown. I did pop my defensive uh, for this pool, even though it's a smaller pool. I know I get hit in the back, which is usually where I take damage. I grab the shield because I'm an engineer and a monk, and so I have really high movement speed. Now, right here, you'll notice that I still have the shield and everything has already aggroed. And so it's really hard because sometimes this thing bugs out and you hold on to the little shield forever. But you can hit the little Nazal um, damage thing here, which I believe I do right as they all aggro. And I just now dropped the shield, but I already had aggro on most of them, if not all of them. And that's a good way to get around that bug as a tank, because otherwise they'll run out of DPS, but I I don't think I've ever had anybody take even near fatal damage on this. Yeah, even before we had that Nazal thing to use. But just as a little quick tip for that part. Here, I grab this pack, go right into the boss. This boss is incredibly easy. He doesn't do any damage. There's just the lightning things. So this right here, when you see this spawn, let me go back just a second. So what it does, all this little lightning on the floor here, and he launches that little orb that goes up right here. As long as you stand in that, the ad will not spawn. That one is probably one of the highest priority ones to get, just because the ad is just extra. It doesn't really help you at all. It just takes longer to kill. It can do some damage to DPS, so if it does happen to spawn, you'll want to grab it as soon as possible. I think when these first came out, I did have some DPS take some high damage from that mob when I was just trying to see what it did. And so it can be a bit of an issue if you let it go freely, but if you just stand there, you don't have to worry about it at all. I just keep killing this. This guy gets down to like 20%. He does his little speech. It just takes a little bit longer than anything, but really easy boss. Not much to worry about here. So yeah, he goes and does his speech. Now, I have ran into bugs here where the dogs do not kill the little scarlet guys that have the giant shields right there. If that happens, you can stun them and then roll through for the monk. The priest just runs through, you know, and then if you stun them again, the priest can actually pull someone through if they don't have fast movement. Don't run through them while they're not stunned, otherwise you will uh, die pretty quickly at that point. So we let this guy get rezzed. Now this pool I like. It's fairly easy. You just grab everything and go. So again, I chunk a few things, throw on Rushing Jade Wind just to get enough initial aggro to get to this pact right here, and then I line of sight so that way the casters will all get stacked up. I make sure that they're all there, and then I pop like guard and stuff to make sure, just a small defensives, just to make sure that everything's good. Like this is not a very high damage pack here, and so I just make sure that they're all there, and this really speeds up the dungeon. Like this dungeon is extremely fast. I remember back in the day when Harold over here actually used to do some damage. Harlan is his new name. Um, and so nowadays it's just even in really not great gear, it just doesn't do too much. So this right here is the stun. So when it has the giant blue arrow, I think it's, yeah, this little giant blue arrow here. This will slowly start to radiate at this person, and then it shoots out a ring. That should happen in just a second. Yeah. And if nobody is standing in it, that ring will expand out and it'll stun people. That's probably the other major one to look at. Like I said, it's not like super deadly, but it's just annoying. And so that's the other one that I try to mess with. Now here, when you're taking Harlan, these ads will run to him, so that gives you time to aggro those, so you don't have to worry about aggroing them. I mean, until they get to you. Uh, Blades of Light, don't stand near him when he does this. It will eventually kill you, I think. I haven't been sucked up in that in so long, but you can see like a DPS is sucked up in there times two, and their health drops pretty rapidly. Uh, I mean, maybe a tank could live just because of how much HP you do. I always stand in the middle right here because you won't be sucked up in the middle. I always edge the circle though just to be safe because you don't want to have a silly death here. So there's the ad again. I stand in that. It doesn't spawn, and then Harlan goes down pretty quickly. The fun thing about the Nazal buff with Monk is your Touch of Death does a lot of damage, like a million plus. I think now my HP with our Nazal buff is much higher, and so it does a lot more damage. Now this, I pull a little bit of a bigger pool here. You could probably go all the way to the next room and pull those two. I don't think I get really in trouble. Like my healer, of course, I know is with me because I know the healer. If your healer's not, or if you don't know your healer, I probably maybe wouldn't do as much. He does get stunned once, which is almost scary, but and then he pops his Chi and it goes good. Again, trying to line of sight here to pull the other casters that are just taking a second to come over, which they do sometimes. But you know, again, the DPS is really good, and so we get these down pretty easily. Like I said, not really too much trouble. The healer did get a little bit low, but that's probably like the only close call I've had in a bunch of runs, to be honest. And this is, I ran this guy, I think, with like 470, 480 item level. When they do Scarlet Protection, that's when I will do my stun. And the Warlock also got his too. And that just stops it. And that way you can AoE all the ads. And then they might cast it again, depending on how your DPS is. If you do get a second cast, just hopefully you've got people that are interrupt. This boss is pretty quick. He just does a bunch of fire nukes that don't do much damage. You won't get much vengeance, so don't expect to do a lot of damage on this fight. You do have the little ring here that spawns, but we're already in it, so there's no issue there. And there's the ring that goes out that you'll see if you are caught in that. I thought at first that you could jump over it. You definitely cannot jump over it. I thought that would be a cool thing, but we get what we get when we play Mr. Pandaria currently. Um, so this is the only actual effect that he does. It's his little dragon's breath. You just gotta be behind him. It doesn't do much damage. It just disorients you and makes it take a little bit longer to actually kill him. But yeah, not much that goes on here. You'll take him out and get a whole bunch of loot. I think it's one tier piece per, and then like two or three purples. And the blues you usually don't need. But yeah, that's basically it. I mean, this dungeon's fairly quick. I like this one. It's good for getting some gear and all that. I was curious actually. what my item level is in this run. Because I forgot I pulled up the thing, and I'm not using any fancy editing software, but oh yeah, so I had 497 during this run, so I had gotten a few pieces. I'm still in like blue legs. I think one of my rings is low, and my cloak is low, and then I have the engineering goggles, which I think are like 476. So not like crazy, not full geared yet. I did have quite a few pieces though at this point, but I ran this in much lower gear. So don't worry if you're starting out tanking or learning how to tank. I think the Celestials are really not that bad, not that scary. Learn how to tank on any and all tanks. I've tanked the Celestials on every single one of the tanks, and they all do extremely well. And so, if you have any questions, put them down below. I will try to answer. I'll try to do a few more of these too, just to see if they're helping anybody. Hopefully, they are. And then, I guess, do all the YouTube stuff with the subscribing and whatnot. And thank you much for watching.